So what is a Unitarian? Before I answer that question, I have a question for you. What did the Unitarian say to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything. In essence, that is what a Unitarian is. It means to recognize that we are one with everything. Uni means one. It's the root of unit, unite, unity, and Unitarian. And to be a Unitarian means to recognize an essential oneness with all life. Now, it means that we are one with the blowing clover and the falling rain. It means that we're one with the shimmering stars and the circling planets. It means that we are one with the creatures of the earth and the sky. And it means that we are one with each other and one with all life. Now, probably the most famous Unitarian minister of the last century, I shared some of his words, and I want to just reprise just a short little bit of that for you to hear again. It was A. Paul Davies from All Souls in Washington, D.C., who said, "Do you belong to a religion that says that humankind is not divided, except by ignorance and prejudice and hate? A religion that sees that humankind is naturally one and is waiting to be united. A religion that proclaims an end to all exclusions, and it declares a siblinghood unbounded. A religion that knows that we shall never find the fullness and the wonder and the glory of life until we're ready to share it. That we'll never have hearts big enough for what people call the love of God, if and until we have made them big enough for the worldwide love of one another." Now, that's what a Unitarian is. It's someone who affirms that we are one with everything and everyone with no exceptions. That's why the Unitarian says, "Make me one with everything." But when we say it, of course, we're not ordering hot dogs. In fact, it's not even that we need to be made one with everything, because we already are one with everything and everyone. We just need to learn how to fully embrace it and to live it in the world and in our daily lives. And I realize it sounds incredibly simple in a way, but it's a truly profound idea, and it has a long history. It's not just a feel-good notion that somebody discovered on the cap of a Snapple tea bottle. This goes back thousands of years. In the Eastern religions, the idea of the essential oneness of all existence goes back to the Vedas of India, that are among the oldest recorded scriptures of any religion and any peoples. And in the Western traditions, we see the roots in Judaism and in Christianity. With Judaism, we see the birth of monotheism, or the idea of one universal God. Before that, every tribe had their own God that they prayed to, and there was this idea that my God is stronger than your God, or more real than your God. And humanity was a lot like children on the playground who argue, my daddy can beat up your daddy, but instead it was my God can beat up your God, and the gods were fighting, and so were the people. And when one tribe conquered another, that was the proof that their God was stronger and better and more true. And people have been killing each other over God, or in the name of God, ever since. Now, Judaism, it eventually proposed that there were not really multiple gods all fighting each other, but one universal God of all humanity that cared about justice and the well-being of all people, including widows and orphans and prisoners and foreigners, and those who are often left out and left behind. Judaism proposed that we are all essentially siblings created in the image of one universal creator. And then with Jesus, when he was born, he was born and he died a Jew. over 2,000 years ago. A lot of people forget that because they made a religion about him. They're like, oh, wait, he was Jewish himself. He wasn't a Christian. But now, in his name, the world's largest religion, Christianity, which teaches that all people are brothers and sisters. However, even these teachings about Jesus and his apostles, Jesus and his apostles, have been used over the years to endorse such divisions and degrading institutions as slavery, as segregation, as manifest destiny, and have been used to incite the killing of Jews and Muslims and women as witches. So the belief by itself that we're all related is not enough by itself to unify the family of humanity. The dominant denominations of Christianity today continue to divide people by endorsing men are superior to women, discriminating against people who love people of the same gender, and by promoting prejudice toward other religions and beliefs. Now, my point in mentioning this is not to disparage anyone else's faith. The leaders of all of those faiths would gladly and happily come here and explain that that is what they believe. They're not apologetic about it. That's what it's about. So I'm not trying to speak out of school or trying to denigrate. I'm just trying to present, honestly, what those representatives would say. If official representatives from any of the three major Christian denominations, Catholic, Baptist, or evangelical, were here, they would openly explain that their understanding of God and doctrine and church policy include the hierarchical relationship between men above and women below them, both inside and outside of the church, the sinfulness and immorality of people loving people of the same gender, and a belief that other religions, well, maybe not all dangerous, are certainly false and misguided, and people would be better off thinking and believing like them. My point in saying this is to say that even Christians and others who also believe in the unity of the human family, they're promoting a very specific kind of unity. It's a unity that is thought to come from conformity. Conformity to their particular doctrine. In other words, it's a unity that requires all gay people to become straight, or pretend like they become straight, or to be celibate. It requires women to know and accept their place below men in the divine hierarchy, and to unite us, it requires that everyone believe what they believe, or at least follow the dictates of their religion. And to be fair, that would be a form of unity, but not the one that we advocate here at All Souls. The other irony in all this is that even if the world, everyone became Christian, it would still most likely, we'd still be divided by denominations and practices. The divisions within the body of Christianity itself are quite extreme. You know it's gotten bad when even the Methodists can't get along with each other. So even if we tried to teach the whole world to sing in perfect Christian harmony, we'd probably still be quite divided as a human family. And it just seems a little like a crazy way for a God to run a universe. So, I offer this as background to explain that the idea of Unitarian was born from this Jewish and Christian lineage. But the Unitarians have a very different approach to this idea of unity within the human family. And this approach is different from any of the fundamentalist religions, conservative or orthodox religions of the world. Fundamentalists of every faith, Muslims, Hindus, Jews, whoever, believe that their religion is the one and only correct religion. And that ultimately and ideally everyone should come to know the truth as they know it. Underneath this belief is the common understanding that the human family is one. But for fundamentalist religious people, unity must come from uniformity to their particular beliefs and their particular practices. Now, Unitarians, on the other hand, believe that the human family is one, but that our unity will not come from uniformity, but from learning to understand and appreciate each other in our blessed diversity. Unitarians say that the only way that we will ever have a world of peace and harmony is through building bridges of understanding and appreciation of our many differences. It's not about teaching the whole world to sing the same song, but learning to appreciate each other's songs that will bring harmony to humanity. And this approach, it runs counter to the idea that it is through one doctrine, one true doctrine, that the world will someday be blessed. And I just want to tell you, my friends, this is not a small distinction. Do you know that on our campus here at All Souls, before there was a mosque in Tulsa, Muslims came here to pray in what's now the president's room? And do you know that for 2 years, the Jewish community, the conservative Jewish community of B'nai Emunah, used this as their place of worship and education while their synagogue was under construction? And did you know that the Tibetan Buddhist group Bodhicharya of Oklahoma held their services here at All Souls for 2 years? And so here at All Souls, we have an intimate relationship with people of other faiths. And the point is that we do not think that they need to forsake their faith or their traditions in order for the human family to live as one in peace and in harmony. We like them just the way they are. We dare to presume that the people all over the world will never pray alike, love alike, vote alike, think alike, or believe alike. And so this tradition is focused on building unity without uniformity, and determined to demonstrate that diversity does not have to mean divisiveness. We say diversity is to be cherished and celebrated. So I purposely did not make this a message, a history lesson about Unitarians in Europe and America over the last 400, 500 years. You can come to our foundations class in September if you want to hear all. It's a glorious history. There's great stories, amazing people. You heard about a couple of them today. But today's message is not meant to be about what others did in the past who called themselves Unitarian. It's about what we are called to do now. It's not titled, What Was a Unitarian? That would be a historical sermon. It's purposely titled, What is a Unitarian? So I go back to the statement that the human family is one and is only divided by prejudice and ignorance, hate and greed. Being a part of All Souls is not just an exercise in developing elaborate theories and theologies about human togetherness. No, we are each being asked, how are you breaking down the walls of ignorance, prejudice, hate, and greed that divide and demean and are destroying the human family? How are you in your life, this week, this month, this year, building bridges? This is a serious question about walking our talk. And we're not being asked to figure out how the Ukrainians and the Russians are going to get along. We're not being asked how the Israelis and the Palestinians are going to get along. We don't have to figure all that out. It's not our job to figure all that out right now. We're being asked, something much more direct, something much more impactful, something that we can actually do something about. We're being asked to continually work to learn to get along with someone or someones who look different, who love different, who think different, who vote different, who pray different, and even speak differently than us. That's not theoretical. That's not all up here. That's real. This is our one shot. We're alive right now, you and I. We are alive, and we have a shot to make humanity just a little bit more kind, a little bit more humane, a little bit more loving while we're still here. Now, it scares a lot of people who would rather remain comfortably numb in the bubble of their own idiosyncratic perceptions of reality. But to be a Unitarian, and especially to be a member of All Souls in Tulsa, is to say, I don't want to die having lived my life in a bubble. It is to dare to journey to the crossroads of human understanding. It is to be a pilgrim willing to brave the dangers and harvest the blessings of a voyage into the unknown connection between human beings, rather than to remain comfortable but compromised. I could tell a lot of stories about what happens and what happens here in this community and how people have grown more whole, more free through engaging with people who are different from themselves. But I'm going to conclude with just one. You probably know that All Souls is an officially welcoming congregation. What that means in our association is that we are welcoming and affirming of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, and others all together. But this didn't just happen. It wasn't just like, well, All Souls, yeah, of course we are, you know. No, we had a 4-year process of education and discussion in the early 2000s that led to a unanimous vote of this congregation. Well, during those 4 years, we held programs on Sunday mornings and on Wednesday nights. There were sermons and seminars and speakers on subjects that most people back then didn't always feel comfortable talking about in general, and certainly not in church. So one Sunday, after the service, an elderly lady in her 80s came up to me and said, "You're not going to believe what happened to me today." And I said, "Try me." And she explained that she was going to one of our Sunday morning Bible classes that we had back then. And when she arrived and she sat down, the class was already underway. And she quietly took her seat in the front of the classroom. And she listened. And it didn't take long for her to realize that she was in the wrong room. It turns out that she had stumbled into a panel discussion on bisexuality. At first, she felt very uncomfortable. And she thought that she would just get up quietly and leave. But then she realized that it could send the wrong message if she walked out. So being the polite person who she was, she stayed for the entire discussion. And she looked at me with the sweetest smile right at the door as she was leaving the sanctuary that day. She said, "You know what? I'm glad I stayed." She explained that she wouldn't have ever chosen in a million years to go to be in that classroom. But she said she learned a lot because she was there and she listened and she saw the humanity of the people who were right in front of her. And I noticed that as the years went by, she really opened her mind and became an accepting person. But let me explain that this wasn't just any woman. This was the woman. When I came as a candidate, before I'd been chosen as the minister, I was like being auditioned. And I was speaking to our alliances, which are some of the oldest organization in this congregation. And there's packed Emerson Hall, Everyone wanted to see who's this new person who we're thinking about, that we're going to vote on, whether he's going to be our new minister. And it was like a mass interview from the oldest members of the church. And this woman I'm telling you about, she asked a very pointed question. And that's why I still remember it. In fact, I don't remember any other questions that were asked to me that day. She said, I just have one question. If you come here and become our minister, are you going to try to make this a welcoming congregation? And she made it clear by her tone and her phrasing and her body language that this was something that she did not want. Now, I explained that becoming a welcoming congregation was something that the congregation would have to decide. It wasn't something that a minister can decide for a congregation, and that's how it works in our association. However, I said that regardless of whether the congregation decided to go through a formal process of welcoming or not, that it was very important to me that whatever church I serve is welcoming to all people, including LGBTQ plus people. We didn't say Q plus then, we keep adding more letters, but so I added that for today. And that seemed to satisfy the audience that I was talking to, because here I am 25 years later, right? No, thank you. No, thank you. Applaud yourself for that. But it was truly, this truly kind and wonderful elderly woman who 3 years later wandered into the wrong classroom on a Sunday morning, and she came out transformed. Now, it's always been my policy to ask permission before I tell anybody's story before the congregation. You don't have to worry, Lottie. If I tell a story about you, I will ask your permission first. But in this case, this woman died some years ago. She's no longer here, so I couldn't ask her permission. But I take some comfort in knowing that because of something we did here, before her life was over, a little hole in her heart that allowed the cold winds of prejudice to blow through was restored. And somehow I imagine that this is how our world and our lives will be redeemed. One heart at a time, as we come to cherish one another. To our visitors, welcome to All Souls. This is a community that tries to embody and celebrate the world as we hope it will someday become outside these walls. Not trying to make everybody think like us or be the same as us, but to love one another in all their distinction, in all their blessed, beautiful diversity. So, I have to ask you, as you have listened to me, have you thought perchance that this is your religion? If so, do not congratulate yourself. Stop long enough to recollect the need of such a world for such a faith and such a group of people. And if you can still say that this of which I have spoken of is true to you, then ask yourself this question: what am I doing with it? And let's do our best to make this world a little bit better while we still have the breath of life within us. I love you.